Sándor Wekerle, 3 times Prime Minister of Hungary, was born in the first year of the War of Independence, 1848, in Mór. His family came from Württemberg. His grandfather entered into the service of Count Lamberg, while his father, who became the first steward of the huge estate, gained respectable bourgeois wealth. His mother, Antonia Szép, was famous for her beauty and cleverness. The little vivid Wekerle spent his happy childhood in Mór, from where he attended the Cistercian grammar school in Székesfehérvár and graduated with excellent results. By favor of the wife of his relative, Count Erwin Schönborn, he often visited northern Italy, absorbing the views of the beautiful Venetian architecture. After the grammar school years, he studied law in Budapest, and then he made a trip with his best friends to several foreign countries, including Switzerland, that was already an attractive destination. In 1870, he entered the finance ministry as a trainee drafter. He moved up the ladder gradually, while the financial situation of the country was deteriorating further. Financial difficulties were already present in 1875, when Kálmán Tisza came to form a government. This was described by Pál Hojcsy like this: "Worriment possessed the best patriots. They feared for the nation. The country had no credit. Some came up with the idea of selling pieces of state property, but these were already tied down as deposits for old bonds." Then, in 1887, Tisza himself took over the financial portfolio, but in fact, the management of the finances were entrusted with Wekerle, who had been promoted to the rank of Secretary of State. Then, Wekerle was first appointed by the monarch as finance minister in 1889, and as prime minister in 1892. At the time of his appointment as Prime Minister, Sándor Wekerle already enjoyed extraordinary popularity due to his financial successes. This is how the journal Képes Néplap and Politikai Híró reported it on December 11, 1892. Torchlight March in the honor of the new Prime Minister. Hungary's new Prime Minister, Dr. Sándor Wekerle, lives in Budapest's most beautiful street, Andrássy Avenue. He has a nice little palace in his unparalleled bright road. This is where he comes to have a rest, in the circle of his small family after a useful and tedious work. The man who was elevated by his great talent and amazingly hard work from the lowest degree of bureaucratic career to the highest shelf, the seat of the Prime Minister, in spite of the fact that he cannot boast of ancestors with glorious names. He became what he is today by his own achievements only. Recently, on the 23rd of the past month, roaring cheers surrounded from the lips of thousands of people under the windows of his palace. Accompanied by a huge crowd of people, a bright torchlight march flowed along the wide road, illuminating the ornate palace lines with living daylight. This is how the citizens of the capital wish to express their joy over the fact that the king entrusted with the country's affairs a man who came from a civilian family. Wekerle implemented a huge financial reform. Already in 1887, he said this in a speech: "There is a chronic financial trouble in our state finances, but one not by far incurable. However, precisely because it is chronic, the remedy cannot be a matter of a moment, but only as a result of regular and devoted treatment." In the spirit of this, a huge economic program unfolds, one not known since the retirement from public life of Count István Széchenyi. It supports the development of industry and agriculture. It carries on the rail development program of his friend, Gábor Baros. It stabilizes public finances. It carries out the reform of consumption taxes that cover wine, meat, sugar, and beer consumption, as well as the sugar tax and spirit drinks, the tobacco and salt duties, and liquor sales. It reshapes the system of taxes and duties. It implements reforms in the financial administration. It redeems the private railways. It strengthens the economy both in Hungary and within the monarchy. His great achievements include the currency settlement, the creation of the financial foundations for the gold crown, and its introduction. The country's balance of income, which apart from 2 years marked a deficit from 1870 until 1887, showed a surplus until World War I, thanks to the reforms introduced, creating the foundations for a powerful development that took place in Hungary in this era. He continued his economic program during his second premiership term between 1906 and 1910, also retaining the finance ministry. The reform of direct taxes had been planned by him 1.5 decades before, but it was only now that he had the opportunity to realize them during his country-building activity. He developed the system of managing land, house, equity interest, and excise taxes, that of overall earnings and income taxes and public taxes, a system of laws enacted in 1909. At the same time, he also introduced several measures to ease the burdens in order to have a more proportionate sharing of taxation. One of his most enduring works is the Wekerle housing estate, the construction of which began in 1908. He created this to help public officials live their lives in dignity. This huge social creation, almost unparalleled in the world, was the most personal matter for Wekerle. He himself directed and checked the processes step by step. Thus, a total of nearly 5,000 detached homes were built for a population of about 22,000 people, along with shops, churches, 4 schools, and 6 kindergartens. His second premiership term saw the continued nationalization of coal mining, the further development of industry and commerce, and the initial steps of social security. Wekerle's reforms made our country strong and competitive in Europe. The architectural monuments of his massive creation still adorn our capital and small rural settlements today. It is upon these financial foundations that the Parliament, Heroes Square, the Museum of Fine Arts, the Fisherman's Bastion, the Academy of Music, the Basilica, the Art Hall, the Franz Josef Bridge, the Underground Line, the Museum of Applied Arts, the Corvin Castle, the Comedy Theatre, the Royal Court, and many other contemporary works were built, and millennium events were held. Wekerle was president of the jury, and the exhibition was a huge international sensation. Otto von Bismarck said about him during Wekerle's first prime ministerial period of 1892 to 1895. Mr. Wekerle, whom the Hungarians received from our land, it seems unfolds to become the most brilliant statesman. He can surpass even Kalman Tisza. However, he has a flaw in any case. He is of too democratic propensity. Tisza governed with willpower, while Wekerle with conviction. Statesman Lajos Kossuth said about him, I do not know Wekerle personally, but concluding partly from his parliamentary speeches, partly from written and oral comments made by my friends, I consider him a very genial, talented man, and, that's the main thing, an excellent professional in the field of financial affairs. And this is how the popular politician was described by writer Géza Gárdonyi. A tall, stout man, he weighs 156 kilograms. His gait is awkward, and the tips of his feet go inwards, which would not suit him very well even if he was not Hungarian Prime Minister. He shaves his face and for a first moment, he gives the impression of a footman. However, later, he benefits from his fine-angled white large face, on which happiness and serenity of cuteness play continuously, while esprit shines out of his small black eyes. His hair is grey, short and spiky, worn with a careful side parting. Next to his ears, he wears a kind of beard which suits him well. Normally, he wears a black coat and a white tie. His favorite food is ham hock. His favorite reading is Shakespeare. His favorite song is Raven Washed Sun on Good Friday. Of perfumes, he uses heliotrope. He likes Dejur Szilágyi, Albin Csaki, Archduke Joseph, and honors blonde women. He is always working and always in a hurry. His memory is good. His grasp of issues is clear, but he rarely penetrates into the deep. He prefers to cruise on the surface and allow his instincts to carry the day. It is through this intuitive flair that he is regarded by many as a great and brilliant statesman. Wekerle is a poet, a performer, and an excellent improviser. But he mostly drags the soul of his audience into the stream of his speech by always speaking extemporaneously, and while his ideas are dazzling in zigzags, he does not allow even for a second his words to be weighed by his audience during the speech. He captivates the audience's attention into the rotation of new images and twists. He assails, stupefies, and laughs at you. Sometimes the most interesting points take your breath away. At such times it is interesting to look at the old Kalman Tisa. The old man smiles and nods enthusiastically, an emphatic endorsement of Wekerle's flair, but it is always in his smile that, you are young, son, too young. When starting his first prime ministerial term, Wekerle had to face, in addition to the enormous task of economic transformation, political challenges that are still of great importance today. Eventually, thanks to his activities, 3 issues of great importance were settled at legislative level: the religious affiliation of children of mixed marriages, the reception of the Jewish religion, and the institution of compulsory civil marriage. Kalman Miksat characterized him like this: "What appears is the silhouette of the hand of a great statesman, and you instantly begin to recognize his underlying characteristics. Bold, but not out of passion like Kossuth, rather through tactics. Clever, but not out of consideration of all the circumstances like Tisa, but through instinct, like Count Andrassy. Wavering, but not by his nature of virtues like Gizzi, but for strategy and gaining time. And he is soft, indulgent, but only to take the strong astray. It is Wekerle only who is able to hold the leading reins of government with such ease and smile as if he was holding cotton for a beautiful woman. He possesses some of the magician's skills of Metternich. He's got excellent eyes in darkness and sure hands in the disentanglements of complexities. And alas, there's something patriarchal in him." His third premiership between 1917 and 1918 was already doomed to failure due to the outcome of the First World War and the internal disintegration of the monarchy. After his third prime ministerial term, the sick old statesman was kept in the Győrfolkház prison during the time of the Council Republic.
Wekerle hozta a törvénybe, ne essünk rózsám vétségbe. Apád meg békül, s rabbinus nélkül lehetsz a párom kedvesem. Anyád se bánja, hogyha a lánya pap nélkül lesz a hitvesem.
According to a nice saying by Sándor Wekerle kept in the family, the most important things are health and good mood. Since his childhood, he was fond of jokes, humor, and could deal with people well, irrespective of their importance or status. He had the common touch. He stood on a solid moral foundation. He did not judge people on their social status, which was also manifested in the fact that he did not accept the title of a count. He loved the pleasures of life, delicious food, a good cigar, a good pipe, but he did not spend money unnecessarily. Wekerle repeatedly played jokes on Franz Josef too, outsmarting him. It turned out during his first prime ministerial term that a so-called Jelačić fund existed in the budget of the prime minister's office. This fund helped the monarch discreetly support those who helped the dynasty during the 1848 War of Independence. Wekerle had just learned that Lajos Kossuth's financial situation in emigration had deteriorated. With a smile, Wekerle decided to use the Jelačić fund to give future support to the old emigrant instead of those siding with the dynasty. When he was later relieved, he was given a reproaching about this by the monarch. It happened that in 1908, in order to have a worthy celebration of the 60th anniversary of Franz Josef's accession to the throne, Wekerle proposed the construction of a memorial church rising over the tomb of Prince Arpad, to which the monarch agreed in principle. However, the monarch became curious in retrospect as to where Arpad's tomb actually was. Wekerle, with a hand gesture expressing respect, wittily replied, "Arpad will be buried wherever your majesty commands." Wekerle was very fond of his family and his home, and he was pleased to tend to his estates. In 1878, he married his friend's sister, the beautiful Gisela Molnar from Parno. They had 2 sons surviving to adulthood, Sándor and Géza. Sándor Wekerle Jr. was the country's finance minister in the Bethlen government between 1928 and 1931. Wekerle was a good caretaker. He rebuilt his house into a castle at his Danish estate, but he found even greater peace of mind at his wife's estate in Klopodia. Later, he was given care at the park's sanatorium. He died on August 26, 1921. His catafalque was at the Hungarian Academy of Sciences. He went down in history as one of the most popular prime ministers. The town of Mór preserves his worthy memory. The legacy and spirit of Sándor Wekerle's work is present and can be felt today.